Let me paint you a picture. You've given your all, your time, your energy, your loyalty, to someone who, over time, began to see those gifts as their entitlement. They've stopped appreciating you, assuming you'll always be there no matter how they treat you. And you? You feel stuck. You've argued, explained, begged for them to see your value, but nothing changes. Now imagine this. One day, you decide to break the cycle, not with words, not with confrontation, but with silence. You disappear. No warning, no explanation, no dramatic goodbyes. Just vanish. Suddenly, the person who thought they could take you for granted is left in an empty space where you used to be. They don't hear from you. They can't reach you. And that silence, it's deafening. Here's the truth nobody tells you. The absence of your presence is more powerful than any words you could ever speak. Because when you remove yourself, you don't just leave, you create a void. And in that void, they're forced to sit with their thoughts. That's when the questions start. Where did they go? Did I do something wrong? Why do I feel this way? The silence doesn't just make them miss you, it makes them confront the reality of losing you. This isn't just about cutting someone off. This is a deliberate move, a calculated, disciplined act of reclaiming your power. It's a strategy rooted in both ancient philosophy and modern psychology. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." And in this context, being one means refusing to engage in chaos. It means stepping back, choosing silence, and letting your absence deliver the message. Welcome to Stoic Blessing, the place where we bridge the profound wisdom of Stoicism with the sharp, strategic insights of dark psychology to help you transform your mindset and your life. In today's video, we're exploring the art and power of ghosting, not as a petty reaction, but as an intentional tool to reclaim your energy, demand respect, and elevate yourself above the noise. We call it ghost them and watch. Think about this. People only realize the value of something when it's gone. This is the principle of scarcity, a psychological truth that makes absence far more impactful than presence. And when you disappear, you're not just removing yourself, you're becoming a rarity, something they'll chase, regret, and miss. But here's the catch. This only works if you have the self-control to walk away and stay gone. That's where the real power lies. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to take you on a journey. You'll learn why silence is more powerful than confrontation, how absence triggers emotions like regret and longing, and how you can use this strategy not just to teach others a lesson, but to grow into the strongest version of yourself. But before we dive deeper, let's declare our power right here, right now. Scroll down to the comments and type, "My silence is my power." Let's claim this moment together. And if you're ready to reclaim your time, energy, and self-respect, hit that like button. This is your first step toward mastering the art of detachment and becoming untouchable. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Why absence speaks louder than words. Silence is not just the absence of noise, it's a deliberate, calculated message. And here's the beauty of it. Silence doesn't argue, it doesn't explain, it doesn't beg to be understood. Silence simply is, and that's why it's so powerful. While words can be twisted, ignored, or dismissed, silence leaves no room for escape. It forces the other person to fill in the gaps themselves, and often their imagination is far harsher than anything you could have said. The Stoics understood this power deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." When you choose silence, you revoke your engagement in someone else's chaos. You refuse to feed their drama or validate their behavior. Instead, you reclaim control over your own mind and emotions. Modern psychology backs this up with the concept of scarcity. People are wired to value what's rare. When you're always present, always available, you become easy to overlook. But when you remove yourself, you create scarcity, and scarcity breeds desire. The less they see you, the more they think about you. The less they hear from you, the more they miss you. Your absence becomes the loudest presence in their life. Let's think about it this way. When someone disrespects you, what's the usual reaction? Most people argue, defend themselves, or try to convince the other person to see their worth. But in doing so, they hand over their power. They give the other person control of their emotions. But when you go silent, you flip the dynamic. Instead of chasing validation, you become the one who is chased. Your silence forces them to question themselves, their actions, and their assumptions about you. And here's where the magic happens. When you're silent, you communicate strength. You show that you don't need their validation, their approval, or even their presence to feel whole. That's a message they can't ignore, and it's one they'll struggle to forget. But this isn't easy. It requires discipline, patience, and an unshakable belief in your own worth. The Stoics called this ataraxia, or inner peace. It's the ability to remain calm and unbothered, no matter what storms rage around you. And when you master this, your silence becomes a fortress, unshakable, impenetrable, and undeniably powerful. So before we move on, take a moment to remind yourself of this truth. Silence speaks louder than words because it forces others to listen to themselves. If this resonates with you, drop a comment below. My silence is my strength. Let's commit to this together. And don't forget to like this video if you're finding value so far. Now let's dive deeper into the psychology behind ghosting and why it works. Number 2. The psychological effect of ghosting. Silence does more than just send a message. It creates a powerful psychological ripple effect that can't be ignored. When you ghost someone, you trigger something deeply ingrained in human behavior, the fear of loss. You see, humans are wired to notice things more once they're gone. It's called the scarcity principle, and it's one of the most compelling forces in psychology. When you're no longer there to reply to their texts, pick up their calls, or entertain their games, a shift happens. Suddenly, they're faced with an unfamiliar void, a space where your presence used to be, and in that space, they start to reflect. They replay every word, every interaction, every misstep, searching for clues. The longer the silence lasts, the louder their internal dialogue becomes. Did I do something wrong? Did they lose interest? Are they gone forever? This is the brilliance of ghosting. It puts the spotlight entirely on them. While they're busy trying to figure out what's happening, you're no longer in their orbit, handing over your energy or reacting to their actions. Instead, they're left with their thoughts, their regrets, and, most importantly, their loss. Modern psychology reveals why this works. The scarcity principle tells us that when something is taken away, it suddenly becomes more valuable. Think about it. When a product is labeled as limited edition, we want it more, don't we? The same applies to people. When you pull away, you go from being accessible to unreachable, from ordinary to extraordinary. They'll start to miss the very things they once ignored or took for granted. But it goes even deeper. Ghosting taps into their ego, creating a profound sense of curiosity. The questions begin to pile up. Why did they leave? Was it me? Did they find someone better? This lack of closure gnaws at them, and it's this discomfort that forces them to confront their behavior and decisions. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back their insecurities and mistakes. From a Stoic perspective, this approach aligns perfectly with the idea of emotional detachment. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is in your power to withdraw yourself whenever you desire. Perfect tranquility within consists in the good ordering of the mind." Ghosting is not about hurting someone. It's about stepping back and prioritizing your peace. It's about saying, "I choose not to engage in anything that disrupts my harmony." So, while they're left wrestling with their regrets and questions, what are you doing? You're reclaiming your power. You're no longer the person chasing, explaining, or proving. You're the person who walked away, confident and self-assured, leaving a lasting impact without a single word. Before we move forward, take a moment to own this power. Comment below. My silence is my control. Let's continue building this mindset together. And if you're feeling this, hit that like button. It's your way of stepping into your strength. Now, let's move on to how Stoic principles can help you control your emotions during this process. Number 3. Stoic principles on controlling emotions. Here's a harsh truth. Ghosting only works if you have the emotional discipline to walk away and stay away. Without control over your emotions, you risk breaking the silence, giving in to impulses, and undoing all the progress you've made. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes your greatest ally. The Stoics believed that true power comes from within, specifically from mastering your emotions. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that no matter what others say or do, you hold the ultimate authority over how you react. And sometimes the strongest reaction is no reaction at all. Think about it. When someone disrespects or undervalues you, your first instinct might be to lash out, explain yourself, or demand accountability. But what happens when you do? You're giving them control. You're handing over your peace of mind and allowing their behavior to dictate your emotions. That's not strength, it's surrender. The Stoics teach us that the path to true freedom lies in emotional detachment. Epictetus put it simply, "It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters." By ghosting, you're not just stepping away from the person, you're stepping away from the chaos they bring. You're choosing not to let their actions disturb your inner peace. And that choice, it's a display of unshakable strength. Here's where dark psychology intersects with Stoic wisdom. When you stay silent, you're not just protecting your peace, you're making a statement. Your silence says, "I am in control. I don't need your validation, your attention, or your approval. My worth isn't determined by your actions." That message is far more powerful than any argument or confrontation could ever be. But let's be honest, controlling your emotions isn't easy. There will be moments when you feel the urge to reach out, to explain yourself, or to seek closure. In those moments, remember this: your silence is the ultimate test of your discipline. Every time you resist the urge to engage, you're strengthening your emotional resilience. You're proving to yourself and to them that you don't need to react to every slight or insult. You're above that. So how do you stay disciplined? The Stoics advise focusing on what you can control. You can't control how someone else feels or what they think of you, but you can control how you respond. Shift your energy away from what you've lost and toward what you're building. Your peace, your growth, your power. Take a moment to affirm this principle right now. Head to the comments and type, "I control my emotions. They don't control me." This is your declaration of independence from emotional chaos. Now let's move forward and explore how reclaiming power through absence changes everything. Number 4. Reclaiming power through absence. Absence isn't just about walking away. It's about reclaiming what was always yours. Your power, your peace, and your self-respect. When you step back, you're not simply disappearing. You're making a bold statement. I am no longer accessible to anyone who doesn't value me. And that shift? It's transformational. Here's the thing. When you're constantly present, you dilute your worth. You're always there, always giving, always available. But when you step back, you create a noticeable gap. And in that gap, a new dynamic begins to form. Your absence forces the other person to see what life is like without you. It's in that void that regret, longing, and reflection take root. The power of absence is rooted in two key psychological principles: scarcity and boundaries. Let's start with scarcity. People value what they can't easily have. When you pull away, you become rare, something they can no longer take for granted. That's when the questions start to creep in. Why did they leave? What did I do wrong? How can I get them back? Your absence makes them realize what they've lost, and the more they feel that loss, the more your value increases in their mind. But there's another layer to this: boundaries. Stepping away is the ultimate act of setting a boundary. It's you saying, I won't stay in a space where I'm not respected or appreciated. And here's the kicker: people will test your boundaries. They'll try to pull you back, provoke a reaction, or make you feel guilty. But every time you hold the line, you reinforce your power. You show them, and yourself, that your peace is non-negotiable. This isn't just theory. The Stoics lived by this principle. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you focus on reclaiming your power, you shift your mindset. You're no longer concerned with how they feel or what they think. You're focused on you, your growth, your goals, and your well-being. But let's be clear, reclaiming your power doesn't mean hoping they'll come crawling back. It means recognizing that you never needed them in the first place. Their reaction, or lack of it, doesn't define your worth. The act of stepping away is about rediscovering yourself, rebuilding your confidence, and showing the world that you don't settle for less than you deserve. So, what happens next? While they're stuck in the spiral of regret and curiosity, you're using this time to level up. You're not waiting for them to notice your absence. You're making sure that if they ever do, they won't recognize the person you've become. That's true power. Before we move forward, take a moment to claim this transformation. Drop a comment below. I reclaim my power through absence. Let this be your commitment to stepping back and standing tall. Now, let's explore how dark psychology plays into this and why your absence creates such a profound emotional impact. Number 5. Dark psychology. How they'll feel your absence. When you ghost someone, you're not just removing yourself from their life. You're planting seeds of emotion that grow into something they can't ignore. Dark psychology reveals that absence creates a whirlwind of feelings: guilt, curiosity, longing, and even obsession. And the best part, all of this happens in their mind while you remain completely silent. First, let's talk about guilt. When you disappear, the other person is left to wonder why. They'll replay your last interactions, searching for clues. Even if they don't admit it, a part of them starts to feel guilty for how they treated you. Your silence is a mirror reflecting their actions back at them, and guilt is the first crack in their confidence. Next comes curiosity. Humans are naturally wired to crave closure, and when they don't get it, their minds go into overdrive. Why did they leave? Was it something I did? Are they with someone else? The lack of answers creates a vacuum that their mind rushes to fill. The more silent you remain, the more they obsess over what they don't know. And here's the key: the less information you give them, the more valuable they perceive you to be. Then there's longing. This is where the scarcity principle comes into play. They begin to notice all the small things about you that they once overlooked. The way you laughed, the energy you brought into the room, the stability you offered. Your absence amplifies these memories, making them yearn for what they lost. But here's the twist: the more they long for you, the more they realize they can't have you, which only intensifies their desire. Finally, there's obsession. When guilt, curiosity, and longing build up, they create a powerful emotional cocktail. The person who once took you for granted now finds themselves constantly thinking about you. They can't escape it because your absence has become a puzzle they can't solve, a void they can't fill. And the best part? You're not even lifting a finger to make this happen. Your silence is doing all the work. From a Stoic perspective, this is the ultimate power move. By stepping away and maintaining your discipline, you're not just protecting your peace, you're commanding their attention without saying a word. Epictetus said, First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In this case, you're choosing to be someone who values themselves enough to walk away, and you're letting that choice speak for itself. But let's be clear, the purpose of this isn't revenge. It's about setting a boundary and showing what happens when that boundary is crossed. You're not chasing, explaining, or justifying. You're simply stepping back and letting them feel the weight of losing you. That's the power of dark psychology. It uses their own emotions to teach them a lesson they won't forget. So, while they're consumed by guilt, curiosity, longing, and obsession, what are you doing? You're focusing on you. You're growing, glowing, and becoming someone who doesn't just command respect, but demands it by the way you carry yourself. If this resonates with you, take a moment to affirm your power. Drop a comment below. My absence is my strength. Let this be your declaration of control over your own life. Now, let's move on to what you should do while you're gone, because this is where the real transformation begins. Number 6. What to do while you're gone. Ghosting someone is only half the strategy. The real power lies in what you do with your absence. This is your opportunity to transform, to grow, and to redefine who you are. While they're sitting in the void you left behind, wondering where you went and why, you're using this time to become someone they'll regret losing forever. First, let's talk about self-improvement. This is the time to double down on your goals. What have you been putting off? Is it fitness, learning a new skill, building your career, or simply taking care of yourself? Your absence from their life should not just create a void for them. It should create space for you to flourish. The next time they see or hear about you, they should barely recognize the person you've become. Second, focus on your mental and emotional glow-up. This means investing in your inner peace, self-discipline, and mindset. The Stoics believed that true strength comes from within. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Use this time to master your emotions, let go of resentment, and build the kind of unshakable confidence that can't be ignored. Then there's your physical presence. Whether we like it or not, people notice when someone starts to look better. Hit the gym, improve your diet, or refine your style. It's not about trying to impress them. It's about becoming the best version of yourself for you. When you're glowing, they'll notice. And trust me, they'll wonder, how did they become even more incredible after leaving me? Now, let's talk about your social presence. This doesn't mean flaunting your life on social media to make them jealous. That's petty and beneath you. Instead, focus on building authentic connections, meeting new people, and expanding your network. Let your absence from their life be a reminder that you're not just moving on, you're leveling up. And finally, silence. While you're working on yourself, maintain your silence. This is where discipline is critical. Don't reach out to check on them. Don't respond to their attempts to provoke a reaction. Every time you stay quiet, you're reinforcing the boundary you've set. You're showing them and yourself that you have the strength to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your goals, and your future. The beauty of this strategy is that it's not about them. It's about you. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, you're no longer waiting for their recognition or validation. You're giving yourself everything you once sought from them. And that's where the real power lies. Take a moment to affirm this shift right now. Drop a comment below. I glow up in silence. Let this be your reminder that your absence isn't just punishment for them. It's a gift to yourself. Now let's move on to what happens next. The inevitable comeback, and how to handle it with grace and strength. Number 7. The inevitable comeback. What happens next? Here's the thing about ghosting. It leaves an impact. And when someone feels the weight of your absence, there's one thing you can almost always count on. They'll come back. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the way you expect, but eventually they'll find a reason to re-enter your life. The question is, are you ready for it? When they do reach out, it will likely start small: a text, a comment on your post, or even a sudden like on your photo from months ago. Why? Because they're testing the waters. They want to know if the door they took for granted is still open. This is where your discipline is tested. Do you respond, or do you stay silent? Remember, their comeback isn't about them. It's about you. It's your moment to decide if they still deserve a place in your life. But let's take a step back and understand why this happens. When you ghost someone, you become a mystery. Dark psychology tells us that humans are naturally drawn to what they can't figure out. Your silence has created a void in their mind, and they're desperate to fill it. That desperation is what drives them back. But here's the key. You're no longer the same person they knew. You've grown, transformed, and elevated yourself to a place where their presence in your life is no longer a necessity. So how do you handle it when they reach out? First, don't let their reappearance shake your peace. Remember the Stoic principle. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Their return doesn't mean you owe them anything, not an explanation, not forgiveness, and certainly not access to the life you've rebuilt in their absence. If you do choose to respond, do so from a place of strength, not emotion. Keep it short, neutral, and focused on boundaries. Something like, "I hope you're doing well. I've been focusing on myself and my goals." This sends a clear message. You've moved on, and you're no longer the same person they took for granted. If they're looking for closure, let your growth speak for itself. If they're trying to manipulate their way back in, maintain the boundary you've set. On the other hand, if you choose not to respond, that's equally powerful. Silence is still your weapon. By refusing to engage, you're reinforcing your value and showing them that you're not willing to revisit the past. The most important thing to remember is this: their comeback doesn't validate you. You've already validated yourself by walking away and growing into the person you are now. Their return is a reflection of what they've lost, not of your worth. So when the inevitable comeback happens, handle it with grace. Let your actions and your growth speak louder than any words. Stay calm, stay grounded, and most importantly, stay focused on your path forward. Take a moment to claim this power. Drop a comment below. I rise above the past. Let this be your declaration of strength in the face of their return. Now, let's move on to the final and most important piece of this strategy: empowering yourself to stay ghosted and remain in control. Number 8. Empowering yourself to stay ghosted. The hardest part of ghosting isn't walking away, it's staying away. It's resisting the urge to break the silence, to check in, to see if they've noticed your absence. But this is where your discipline is truly tested. To stay ghosted, you need to understand that this isn't just about them. It's about you reclaiming your power and prioritizing your peace. Why is it so tempting to reach out? Because silence can feel uncomfortable. You might wonder if they've moved on, if they're hurting like you are, or if they've forgotten you entirely. But here's the truth. Breaking the silence only gives them back the control you've worked so hard to take. When you reach out, you're saying, "Your opinion of me still matters." And that's the opposite of power. The Stoics believed that control over your emotions is the ultimate freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Staying ghosted is an act of emotional mastery. It's choosing peace over drama, self-respect over validation, and growth over stagnation. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, you're reinforcing your independence and proving to yourself that you don't need them to feel whole. But what about closure? Many people break the silence because they're searching for answers or trying to clear the air. Let me tell you something. Closure isn't something you get from someone else. It's something you create for yourself. The moment you decided to walk away, you gave yourself closure. You don't need their words or explanations to validate your decision. You've already moved on. So, how do you empower yourself to stay ghosted? First, stay focused on your why. Remember why you left, the boundaries you set, and the person you're becoming. Write it down if you need to. Every time you feel the urge to break the silence, remind yourself of the progress you've made and what's at stake if you go back. Second, redirect your energy. Instead of obsessing over what they're thinking or doing, pour that energy into your goals, passions, and self-improvement. Channel it into becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need their validation. Remember, your silence is not just for them, it's for you. Third, surround yourself with support. Talk to people who uplift you, who remind you of your worth, and who keep you grounded. Silence doesn't mean isolation. You're allowed to lean on friends, mentors, or even this community to stay strong. Finally, trust the process. Dark psychology and Stoicism both teach us that silence is a long game. The effects of your absence might not be immediate, but they're profound. Trust that by staying ghosted, you're not just teaching them a lesson, you're transforming yourself. Take a moment to affirm this commitment right now. Drop a comment below. I am stronger in silence. Let this be your promise to yourself to stay disciplined, focused, and unwavering. Now let's move to the final part of this journey, your call to action and closing thoughts, where we'll tie everything together and leave you with an empowering reminder to carry forward. You've made it this far, and that says something about you. You're not just here to learn a strategy, you're here to take back control of your life. Ghosting someone isn't just about silence, it's about reclaiming your power, protecting your peace, and prioritizing your growth. It's about stepping away from what no longer serves you and stepping into the person you were always meant to become. Let's recap. Your absence is your message. It speaks volumes without you saying a word. It forces them to reflect on their actions, their losses, and their regrets, while you focus on your glow-up, your goals, and your peace. Your silence is not just a punishment